Okay, everybody, let's get rolling. Now, so we're going to have a look at negative emotions. As I mentioned, the material I'm going to give you tonight is based on the book. I'll be referring to some pages in the book, but I'm going to keep this all very, very simple for you, and I'm going to show you what the source of negative emotions is and what you can do about it, okay? And as always, when you're at my webinars, you'll know that if, as I'm going through it, I'll be asking you for some examples. So please do not hesitate to pop your questions in, your comments in. I check my comments all the time on Zoom, and for any of the other platforms as well, they'll come in to me. Okay, so this is from page 31 of the book. Now, when we're talking about negative emotions, I want to show you about a little scale. It's basically zones of emotion, okay? So we have zones, okay, which is basically an area. Now, up here in zone 4, basically this is enthusiasm. What else have we got? Laughter, creation, creative cooperation towards goals. This is zone 4, okay? Next emotion as we go down here, general happiness and well-being. Okay, we're still smiling. So general happiness. Okay. Brilliant. Who wants to get rid of that? Nobody. Nobody on the webinar wants to get rid of general happiness or enthusiasm. Exactly. These are the emotions that we feel good about, that we like. And you know why? Because they're naturally a part of you. They're just naturally there, and we strive to attain these all the time. Next one. Zone 2. Zone 2 is, it's not really happy. It's in this section here, is boredom. Okay. He's not really unhappy, but he's not really happy either. He's kind of, he's just bored. Bored in the relationship, bored in life, bored about everything. Okay? Now let's go down to this zone here. So when we talk about the negative emotions that we want to get rid of, and I want you to be thinking about the negative emotions that you experience, because I'm going to ask you in a minute to put down your own examples of negative emotions. But the next thing down here, so from this zone down, we get down into zone 1. Okay? And this is the zone of anger. And in here we have, it can be furious anger. It could be critical, like somebody who's not furious but critical, very directly attacking you. Or you directly attacking your partner, you directly attacking your kids, you directly attacking your manager, your employees, the person in the shop that's too slow for you. You know, you're in the queue and there's somebody slow in front of you and you're losing your head. But you don't want to blow up, you're just quite... It's kind of a higher form of anger, but it's all in this band here, okay? And then as we go down to this zone here, this is the zone of apathy. Now I better add in a couple here, because in the apathy zone, there's an upper part of this and there's a lower part of it. Here we have fear, and this includes anxiety, nervousness, worry. Then we have grief. It basically means somebody getting upset very easily about things, you know, getting very sad. And then down here we have just apathy itself. So, when we're talking about negative emotions, we're generally talking, and the reason probably, anybody who's on this webinar tonight, probably either one of two things probably interested you in coming. And you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. One is you wanted to help yourself and understand why you exhibit negative emotions, and you lose your temper, you get sad, or you get stressed out for no reason at all. Or you want to understand how to help somebody else and how to help them. Either one is perfect because these are going to fit in nicely. So, anger. So let's have a look at why are these negative emotions. It's generally because, like, they generally get you into trouble. Now look, I'm not saying that if you lose somebody close to you, it's not natural to feel grief. Of course, okay? And that's something that happens, but you should be able to come out of it soon afterwards. Anger, you can get angry about things. If somebody is stealing your bicycle outside the shop, you know, you might get angry to try and get that bike back. Okay, but these things, these lower emotions, should be temporary. They occur, and then you move back up to your natural level. This is your natural level: enthusiasm, general happiness, this area here. Okay, this is where people mostly feel happy, comfortable with. These are the areas people usually don't want to have. Okay, so I made up a couple of examples of these. So how can this zone anger, affect you? Well, it can cause trouble in marriage or relationships. You can have fights with your partner, losing your temper with a friend. You know, that's this anger band, constantly angry with your partner about something, your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, constantly angry, constantly narky, or pretending to be nice but you really hate them. You know, it's all this band here. You know, you absolutely hate the person or hate everybody, but you're not showing it. You're just walking around with a smile. That's kind of a lower section here. Okay? And then also, let's say you lose your head with your children, and then you do things that you don't really want. You kind of snap at them or give out to them, and then you feel bad about it, and then you go and you say, well, I'll hit the drink now. I'm going to have some extra drink tonight, and I'm going to drown my sorrows. It happens in Ireland. Happens sometimes. Okay, how about this zone here, apathy? And by the way, please, if you have any examples here, because I'm going to be asking you as part of your first exercise to think of your own examples. This area here. So up in this band here, we have nervousness, anxiety. Somebody's going for an interview. Yes, you could say it's natural to feel nervous, but if you're drilled enough, if you're practiced enough for the interview, it should go okay. You shouldn't be so full of nerves. And so nervousness can stop you from going for jobs. It can stop you from trying to get into a new relationship. It can stop you from a lot of things. So this is nervousness and kind of anxiety and stress. Okay? This one, uncontrolled grief, where somebody gets really upset very easily, especially in moments of conflict. So for example, if you're having an argument with your boyfriend and you just break into tears and it's kind of uncontrollable. All you need to do is keep communicating and it'll all work itself out, but you just explode into tears. Or it could be even a guy handling his boss in work and he can't deal with the boss because every time he gets into some sort of a conflict, he gets really upset inside and he's basically holding in the tears. So this is grief. And then down here is apathy. Apathy basically means I've given up on that area. I've just given up. And when somebody hits this apathy area on a very long-term basis, it can be very, very difficult to get the person motivated, to help the person. You know, you've done everything that you can to try and get the person interested, and it's difficult, you know. Okay, so when we're talking about negative emotions and learning to control them, we're generally talking about this area here. Okay, the anger and apathy band, not this area. This is your natural area where you love to be and where you feel the best, in this area. When you're down here, it doesn't feel so good. When you're angry all the time or stressed or worried, it's not nice all the time. Okay, now, so what I'd like you to do is I'd like to get your help on this because I would like to get some more examples from you of emotions that you don't like about yourself that you'd like to handle, or emotions that you've seen in other people that are negative, and we'll see where they fit in here. Okay, so this is your first exercise as part of the webinar. I want you to think of a negative emotion that you would like to get in control of and then pop it into the chat directly on Zoom, or you can pop it into the comments on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram. Okay, so just take a moment to think of a negative emotion that you would like to get on top of, and I would love to see your comments coming in. So just give you a moment to do that. And by the way, while we're waiting for those, I want to welcome everybody else who came in there that I didn't welcome. Lar, Megija, Isabella, and Anna. Good to have you on board. Thanks for coming in. Okay, we've got a couple coming in. Keep them coming in. I'm just looking for any negative emotions that you've experienced that you'd like to get on top of, okay? So frustration at work would be kind of getting angry. It's like, frustration is like, it's like held in wanting to break something. So that would be in this zone here. Okay, it may not be as low as anger. It might, because there's different levels of this. There's an upper level and then there's a lower level of anger, so it would be generally up in the higher level of anger. Yes, okay, so wryness, procrastination or laziness takes in, right? So laziness it can be along the boredom, actually. You know, a person's just bored. It doesn't, yeah. It's not really a far trip if you're just bored. But then you could be down in apathy, which is like, I don't care about anything. There's nothing can motivate me. But if it's just kind of laziness and hard to get yourself motivated sometimes, it can be just boredom, you know? And you just need a new game or need something interesting. Gulya, anger, snapping in kids. Okay, thank you very much. Gulya. Trust, yeah, well that would be this area of worrying whether somebody is going to let you down. So that would be, let's say, this thing of anxiety. Okay, so you don't trust somebody mainly because you're kind of worried that they are going to let you down and a bit cautious, a bit suspicious. So it can be anxious. It can also be on this anger, and which is the top end of this is called antagonism, which is basically you know, being kind of hostile, not trusting people. It can be either one of those zones there. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you. Frustration, lack of motivation cause friction in marriage. Okay, Jessica, thank you so much. Yeah, again, that can be a blend of anxiety, antagonism, yeah, kind of held in stuff there. Abdullah, loneliness. Yeah, so we're hitting the loneliness area. Generally, as we'll go over in the second part of the webinar, is generally associated with losses. And a person tends to get stuck down in this area of grief after a person's had quite a few losses. So that loneliness is, it can prevent you from reaching out and meeting new people. So that we're talking about this area here. So we'll pop that in as well, but it's a good one. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, hey John, depression, yeah, that kind of fits in there as well, into those areas. Frustration with workers not working, and negative with my happy life. Okay, frustration with workers, that's this area here, this, you know, getting annoyed with them, and negative with my happy with life, people being mean and getting, yeah, it's kind of this area here, Kat. Irrational behavior decisions, yeah, okay, so they usually, those irrational behavior decisions follow a negative emotion, so they follow something. So if a person's losing his temper, then he makes an irrational decision. So that's good, Caroline. Except the irrational behavior or action comes after this emotion, whatever the feeling is there. Insomnia, yes. Emotion, yeah. You see, what usually when people come to me saying, "Oh, I can't sleep" or whatever, there's usually something behind that, and it's usually something like they're anxious over something, they're worried, there's got things on their mind, or there's kind of stuff suppressed in there, you know. So again, emotions can lead to things happening with you physically as well. Okay, and next one, uncontrollable anger. Yeah, okay, so there's this one here. Yeah, losing the temper, depressed too, sometimes moody. Yeah, okay, so moody basically means going up and down on this. And you know, it's totally fine if you're going up and down here, but if you're constantly going up and down here, it's kind of something that I'm going to show you what's causing that in a few minutes. And then fear, okay, yeah, and again, this is a good one, Kat, when you are confronted with people who are opposed to what you're doing, against you, critical, what can happen is this fear and anxiety can start kicking in automatically, and it can prevent you from facing up to it, you know. It's not that you have to learn martial arts or be like our old Conor McGregor and get out there and fight the world, but you do need to be able to actually confront and face these things. And thank you, Kath. And then finally take this one from Adrian. Conflicting self-talk with regards to situations at work which you don't agree with or don't do in the direction which you think is better. So conflicting self-talk would be, again, generally around this area. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. So we filled in a few things here. These are the negative emotions which we're generally trying to get rid of. And I'm telling you, it's not unnatural for you to feel these occasionally. Of course, if you lose somebody, you're going to feel grief. But the point is, and also if you might lose your temper sometimes, but with something happening in your life, something like, I don't know, somebody steals your dog and is running down the road with your dog. Okay, well, you're going to run after that, and you're not necessarily going to be, hey, how's it going, you know? Any chance you could give me my dog back? No, you might be running down the road in anger. But you should be able to come back up here very soon afterwards. That's the point. I'm going to show you exactly why you can't and why you don't. This is the problem, okay? So now, let's go into what the cause of this is. Now, before I go into this, I'm going to explain two words which are very important as part of what I'm going to read out to you. Okay? Now, this is not a course in English, so, but I do want to make sure that you understand these words, because once you grasp this, look, we're not going to cover everything in the whole world tonight, but I just want you to get this basic fundamental thing, okay? A basic fundamental thing that is going to explain to you how you might have thought to yourself, what's wrong with me? Oh, it's this, it's that, it's the other. You can relax. You can relax. This stuff is not coming from you, really you, but I'll break it down here. So the first word I want to go over is this word reaction. Okay? Now, a reaction, basically means back. Okay? So, you have an action. You do something. You've ever heard of the phrase, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, I heard that once in my science classes, and I don't know how it relates to physics really, because I haven't studied up on that. So, an action and a reaction. So a reaction is basically the response, what comes back as a response to an action. Okay? So action, reaction. So without the action, there isn't a reaction. Without the action, there's no reaction. So reaction is what comes back, and I'll just write it in here in blue. It's like an automatic response to an action. Now, I made up some examples here when I was trying to think of how am I going to go over this. I just made some examples and so forth. Okay, so for example, if any of you like kittens and you have a new little kitten in your house and they don't know where they are, you just got them from your cousin in Wexford or over in Galway, and the little kitten is in the house and you jump at the kitten and it's a frightened kitten, the action is jumping at the kitten and the reaction is the cat jumping up. So it's a response to an action. It's an automatic response. Okay? Another example. Let's say you have a brother and your brother loves to drive you nuts and he knows, there's your brother, okay? And he knows that if he just says one thing to you, let's say you have spots, he knows that if he just calls you spotty, okay, you just go nuts. He knows that if he just calls you spotty, you'll go nuts, or you'll get really angry. So this is the action, okay, and this is the reaction. It's a response to an action. Okay, a couple of more examples. Okay, your wife or your husband is angry with you. They come home from work and they're angry with you. Now you weren't angry, but now because they're angry, then you get angry, and that's what we call a reaction. You don't want to be angry, but you feel this anger coming on automatically. Another example, if somebody wants to frighten you in the dark, so they wait for you to come into your house and then jump at you, and you literally jump 4 feet off the ground. So in these examples, you could say, in the cat example, the cat is being reactive to your shouts. In this example, you are being reactive to what the brother is saying. And this is this word reactive, because this is important. So you are being reactive. In other words, there's an automatic action happening there as part of you. Something's going on. Okay? Okay? Or you are being reactive to something your partner says, your wife says, your boyfriend says. So that's basically the first word I just want to go over, and that is the word reaction. Okay? Now, if you understand that, give me a thumbs up. That would be wonderful. Or just let me know. I'm still here. That's all I want to say. Reaction, that's all I want. If you know how to do that. Good. Megija, you were the first one off the The mark. Thank you. Rhinus, Lara, thank you. Jessica, great. Everybody's learning how to do it. Thumbs up. Who else have we got? Jessica, Rhinus, thank you so much, guys. That's great. Kat, thank you for the thumbs up. I love thumbs up. Oh, and somebody gave me a wave as well. Thank you, Lara. Very good. And by the way, anybody on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, you can still send your comments in. You know, you can send me in a hello or a wave or a smiley face. Okay, that's great. Simon, thank you. Caroline, thank you. Cool face. Okay. Now, let's see. Just want to, as I told you, Adrian, thanks. I told you I'd go back to my comments, and I will. So I'm just going to address these comments before we move on. Conflicting self-thought. COVID-19. Jared says COVID-19 frustration. Okay. Yes, it does. You know, people are locked in their houses. It is just, it can bring out all these negative emotions and so forth. Yes, you are correct. Reply from Neil. Hi, Neil. Good to see you from Facebook. COVID, yes, yeah, the cat makes a good point. Because of the restrictions, people can't do the things that they normally do to de-stress, to feel better, to go out for walks and so forth. But don't worry, I'm going to bring up this in a few minutes. Putting on weight, everyone going through COVID-19. Yeah, and you know what? Look, I hate talking about the lockdown and the COVID. I really do. Yes, it is definitely they're affecting people, but I want to get into the core of what's going on here, because COVID is generally something that's stopping you from doing those things which you usually do to try to distress yourself. Going to the gym, going for walks, meeting friends. What we're going over tonight is the core of it. What's causing it in the first place, okay? So this is going to help. Anyway, that's the first word, reaction, okay? Free English lesson there for you. And I'm sure you all, practically all, knew that word, but it's fine. I just want to bring it up to you because it's important on the next definition I'm going to go over with you. Now, next bit here, next word in this webinar about emotions, which is turning into an English lesson. Not really. Okay, I'll write this in black. Next word is the mind. Okay, what's the mind? Yeah, you might think, okay, oh God, I couldn't give you that answer. Sure, it's all these things in the brain, and there's a lot of stuff going on there. Well, your mind is basically like your own personal computer, and it is a computer that's more fantastically built than any other computer you could ever imagine. Why? Because it's got unlimited storage. It's capable of working things out really, really fast. I mean, every single person on this webinar, you've got a capability to think faster than a computer. Do you ever have your computer, right? And you're waiting for your computer to do something, and it's just so slow. You've already worked it out, and it just can't keep up with you. You know, that happens. So what is the mind? Is it this deep, complicated thing? Let's just go over the basics, because in my online course, which I'm going to tell you at the end, we're going to break it down a bit more, but I'll just give you the basics here, right? Every day, you are taking in recordings through your senses, okay? What you see, what you taste, what you hear, what you feel physically. And each of these are getting stored in what we call a picture. Now, it's not just a photograph that you pull out of your photo album and there you go. That's kind of a two-dimensional thing. This picture has got all this information in it. So every minute of your day, much faster probably, you're recording a picture of what's going on. You're recording information constantly. Recording. So your mind is simply, it's not exactly a computer, right? But it's basically a collection of all of the pictures that you have accumulated in your past. It's a collection of all the pictures that you've accumulated in your past, and it's something that you use to work out decisions for your future. Okay? You use your mind in order to work out, okay, should I go to Lidl or should I go to Aldi tonight? Or should I go to Tesco or Dunnes or SuperValu? Which supermarket should I go to and you look at all the information in your head. Where did I get the deals last week? What's going on this week? Is there going to be many people in there? Where's there less people on a Friday night? And then you work it all out. But it's based on the information that you've learned. Now, let's say I want to fly to Paris. Okay? Now, I've got to look at all the information about, can I travel into Paris? What are the costs of the flights? What are the restrictions like in France? And I've got to look at that information, maybe talk to somebody who lives in France, give them a call. All this information about France is going to be stored. And then you can look at the money you have in your wallet, look at the reason you're going there, and you can work out from all this information whether you should go or whether you should not go and what airplane you should take and so forth. Okay? Now, I thought of another good example because I'm a cat lover. I love cats. I love dogs as well. I thought of this good example of cats. Let's say you have a cat, all right? It's a little kitten, and I do have some personal experience on this, fortunately or unfortunately. You have a cat, and you go, oh, it's the first time with this cat, and it's a kitten and beautiful, and then the cat is kind of getting a bit more active and busy in the house, and it's a female cat, and the cat is then starting to meow a lot more, and it's getting a lot more friendly for some reason. It's meowing at nighttime, and then you decide, you know what, I know exactly what's going on here. I've had great experience with this cat. I know the cat just needs to go outside and make some friends and enjoy the environment, maybe catch a few birds. So you let the cat out, and that's great. 3 months later, you find that you've got a litter of 20 kittens on your doorstep, ready to be fed, all looking for kitten food. So now that is an experience that is stored in your mind, and you have learned that, you know what, letting a female kitten out without either getting neutered or exercising some sort of control, you're going to end up with lots of kittens. So you've learned that information, and it is in the mind. So now, when your kid comes along and says, oh, mummy, I want to get a new cat, and it's a female cat, you know from experience whether you're going to accept that suggestion or not, because you know what's involved. So basically, to summarize this, your mind is basically a collection of pictures from your past, which you use to make decisions about your future. And I know that's too simple. Nah, that can't be. It's too simple. But, you know, I have found that to be true. In helping other people and in even looking at myself too. It's basically a collection of pictures, all in date order. Yesterday, the day before, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Now, we're going to do a little demonstration of this. What I'd like you to do, and this is the practical part of the webinar. One of them, okay? What I'd like you to do is I'd like you, right now, ready? I'd like you to close your eyes and get a picture of a cat that you knew. Just close your eyes and get a picture of a cat that you knew. Did you do that? Okay, you can open your eyes if you haven't done so already. So, if you did get a picture of a cat, well, there's a picture. And what you're doing there is you're looking at your mind. If you saw that picture clearly, can you let me know, anybody who did, if you did that exercise that I just asked you, if you did see a cat that you knew? Jessica, thank you, good. Anybody else? If you did do that exercise, thank you, Megija. Thank you, Simon. Good. So that's the basic of the mind. Thank you, Lara. Adrian, great. Deirdre prefers dogs. I love dogs too. Wehan, thank you. I love dogs too. We always had dogs growing up. Okay, now that is a picture, and that is what the mind consists of. A whole pile of pictures that you are storing, and you use that to kind of work out decisions about your future. So for example, if you didn't remember anything, let's say you went to a new shop but you can't remember how to get there, well then the next day you're going to have to work it all out again. So it's a handy little machine to have because you can just pull it up. You know, a bit like Alexa. We got a kind of this Amazon thing, Alexa, now at home. We got it yesterday, and it just kind of does all your thinking for you. It's really weird. Alexa, tell me how to win the lottery. It does not compute for some reason. Okay, a sketch of cat. Okay, thank you, Wehan. You can put a sketch of a cat somewhere. I'm not going to try it myself. Okay, so that's the mind. There you go. I wanted to explain that to you. Now, so let's look at why it is that you lose control of your emotions and why it is that you get stuck in certain emotions, and especially those lower emotions. Now, what I'm going to read out to you is from page 50 of the Dianetics book. It's a definition, and it's going to basically bring it down to the basics. Now, as I'm going through this definition, I'm going to ask you regularly for examples, okay? So, because I want to get through it, A to B, pop them in and I'll read them all at the end, okay? Hopefully I'll be able to put them all together. Now, so here's your problem. So as I mentioned, you have this mind, okay? And you use this mind to make decisions in your life. Fantastic. Now, the problem is this. There's a negative part of the mind. You could call it the hidden part of the mind. And it's called the reactive mind. Now, this is why I wanted to explain the word reaction and reactive. The reason it's called the reactive mind is it because it reacts automatically to external things. So an external thing can come in, okay, in here, trigger off something, and what comes up is a reaction. And a reaction is something that is not under your control. For example, you're feeling happy, somebody says something to you, and then automatically you're angry. Okay? Or you're feeling, quite interested in life, and then something triggers you, and you get really frustrated, and you want to break something. Or you have an argument with your partner, and you were doing fine, and all of a sudden, you're really anxious, you're nervous, or you're really upset for no reason at all. Okay? So this is why it's called a reactive mind. I'm going to break it down for you, the component parts of this. And I break this down a bit more then in my webinars, in the online course, which I'm going to tell you at the end. Okay, so what is the reactive mind? So I'm going to read you the definition. It's directly from the book. It's that portion of the mind, okay? It's a portion of the mind which files and retains physical pain. This is the first thing. So I'm going to make this a bit bigger here, right? Okay. It files and retains, the first thing is physical pain. Okay? Now, what this means is, anything that happened to you which had physical pain and a bit of unconsciousness. So, a bit of unconscious, you could have been fully knocked out, or you could be partially out. So, physical pain and unconsciousness. You fell off a ladder, you got bitten by a horse, or you were playing rugby and you broke your shoulder. Any of those incidents of physical impact, pain, and a high or a low degree of unconsciousness, that information, what happens is the lights go out up here for a very short time, and the information all gets stored in here, in this reactive mind. And you can't quite remember the details of what happened, but it's in here. It's all stored in this kind of private section called the reactive mind. Now, my first exercise to you is this. I'd like you to think of an example for me, and if you could put it into the chat, it would be great. Think of an example of an experience that you had which had physical pain. And just let me know if it was an operation, was it an accident, was it a car crash, did you fall out of a tree, did you get a punch in the face by your brother when he was a kid or whatever. Give me any examples that you have or of incidents that you had of physical pain. All right? Next thing. and painful emotion. So this is the next one. Okay, painful emotion. Now this one specifically relates to loss. For example, if a family member died, or somebody that you were very close to left the country, or it could be somebody that you really, really cared about turning their back on you. For example, you were married and it was all going great, and then your husband decides, you know what, I think that the best thing to do is I'll just find somebody else to live with, you know? So, painful emotion gets stored in here. A similar thing happens with painful emotion. If you have a loss of somebody close to you, so I'm just going to have a look at this here so I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay. If you are going through a major emotional loss, again, to some degree, the lights go out in your mind a little bit, and the information all starts getting recorded here. So in here, we have a pile of the bad experiences that you've experienced, particularly physical pain and painful emotion. So as I mentioned, this painful emotion is specifically around loss. So here's my second ask of you. Think of any example that you can think of a loss that you've experienced and pop it into the chat. You don't have to give me a personal one. Maybe if it was somebody that you've seen, that would be great. Pop it into the chat. All right. Now, okay. Let's see. Just reading your comments there, everybody. Your voice is talking over your voice now. Okay, good. Make sure the mics are off. Okay, going on. Okay, can you just, anybody who wants to help me out, just let me know if you can hear me okay now. If you could do that, that would be great. And just pop it into the chat. That would be wonderful. Okay. Okay, good. Oh, lovely. Thanks, guys. Kat, Adrian, Lar, Jessica, Deirdre. You're all brilliant. Thank you, Abdullah. Okay. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened. My voice was heard twice. That must have sounded amazingly beautiful. Okay. Now, a couple of examples coming in there. Broke my coccyx when I was young and drunk. Yes, that fits into this bracket here. Physical pain and unconsciousness. Maybe you weren't completely knocked out, but there's an element there where the lights go out a little bit. Thank you very much, Jessica. Last name, oh dear. Okay. Yeah, so, yeah. Each one of those losses in there, lost parent, kids, where you lose your children, very, very, very painful. That information gets stored in here in the reactive mind. Okay, thank you, Jessica. Sorry to hear about that. Quick to go back over that. I didn't hear anything. Kat, I'm going to do a quick 1-minute summary. How about that? I don't know what part to stop from or to start again. But basically, the reactive mind is a portion of the mind which files and retains moments of physical pain and unconsciousness and moments of painful emotion, particularly losses. This is what's in the reactive mind. Okay, so I'm going to read out to you the rest of the definition. The reactive mind is that portion of the mind which files and retains physical pain and painful emotion and seeks to direct the organism. It seeks to direct the organism. Direct means steer or control. Direct the organism. And basically what that means is the body with you in it. Your body with you in it. So what I'd like you to do right now, this is your exercise. What I'd like you to do is just have a look at your hands and your arms and your legs. If you don't have legs, just look at your arms. If you don't have arms, then look at your legs or your body. Just have a look at your body. That is what we're referring to as the organism. Okay? In the definition, organism. It basically is just the body with you in it. Now, the reactive mind is that portion of the mind which files and retains physical pain and painful emotion and seeks to direct the organism solely on a stimulus-response basis. Beautiful. Stimulus-response. Now, Stimulus response. This word stimulus comes from a Greek word stimula, which basically means a cattle prod. So essentially, when you have, let's say if you're a farmer and you go out to the field and you have this stick, you use it to get those cows moving. And that's what we mean by a stimula, cattle prod. Okay? A stimula is basically, stimulus comes from stimula, which is basically a cattle prod response. Stimulus response, stimulus means something that creates a reaction. Okay? A couple of examples of stimulus response, or I can see if I can get my knee up here. Okay, can you see my knee? If you're at the doctor, right, and he does this, he taps your knee, and your knee automatically responds. That's called stimulus. The stimulus is the little hammer, and the response is your knee. You can't see my knee there, but it's going out. The response is your knee automatically moving out. Stimulus response. Another example would be if you were to go into Trafalgar Square in London, and there's loads of pigeons there, and you clap your hands loudly, very loudly. The stimulus will be clapping the hands, the response will be pigeons flying up in the air. That's stimulus response. So now, let me just put all this together for you, and then I'm going to show you an example of it, all right? The reactive mind is that portion of the mind which files and retains physical pain and painful emotion and seeks to direct the organism solely on a stimulus response basis. It thinks only in identities. Now, what does that mean? It thinks only in identities. Sorry, I'm going to write these down. It thinks only in identities. Identities just means one thing is identical to the other. In other words, let's say you're looking at two cats in your house and you're saying, well, that cat is the exact same as the other cat. When in actual fact, there are some similarities, but there are actually also differences. So the reactive mind thinks only in identities. It doesn't see the difference between things. So I'm going to show you how that works in a moment. This is the reason why when you're in an argument with your partner, the past comes up again. Oh, you never helped me. It's always the same. It was just like this the last time. Made up another example. Yeah, it's the reason why let's say you had a bad relationship and then you think the same thing is going to happen again. This reactive mind doesn't allow you to think clearly. It just reacts. It takes control without your permission. That's the reactive mind. Okay, a couple of other examples. Okay. Caroline, broken bones, big accident, life-changing loss, many concussions. Yeah, all that stuff gets piled into the reactive mind. Thank you very much, Caroline. Parents divorce, yes, big losses, especially if you're a young kid. That can be a massive loss because kids are generally trying to keep their parents together, and when they break, it's quite upsetting. So this is the reactive mind in a beautiful diagram. It's a portion of the mind which files physical pain. So how does this work? Why is it that this causes you to have painful emotions? Why is that? I'm going to show you why. Let's say you have a guy here, okay, and his name is Joe. And here, let's say 10 years ago, he was going out with a girl, okay, and yeah, it was great, it was fantastic for about 2 years, and then she left him for Bill. Okay, this is Bill. Oh, we'll give him. So she left him for Bill, and there's Joe, and Joe is in bits. Okay, so this is a big loss for Joe, and this is stored in his reactive mind. Now, let's see how this reactive mind affects him in the future, right? So there's Joe. Better give him a couple of eyes. So anyway, apparently he's forgotten now about. We better give her a name. We'll give her Mary. Easy to remember. Apparently he's forgotten about Mary. It was 10 years ago. shouldn't be affecting him too much anymore. And that's grand. And he's trying to get on with his life. Okay? So, he goes out with a new girl. Okay? And they're getting on great. They've got the same things in common. They love cats and dogs. They've got a dream to build a farm down in the south of Ireland. Or whatever. And her name, let's say, is Josie. Okay? And it's going absolutely great. Fantastic. Okay. Now, there's a guy comes along. Okay? And Josie is now working with this guy. And this guy's name is Tom. Okay? This is a new situation going on. Now, there's nothing going on between Tom and Josie at all. They're just work colleagues. There's just nothing. But Joe, because he's had this past bad experience here, there's the potential that this is going to affect him. Why? Here's how the reactive mind works. The reactive mind is waiting for something similar here in this environment to what happened in the past to tell Joe, listen Joe, I'm going to try and protect you now. There's something going wrong here. I'm going to give you a little bit of the feeling that you had back here because we survived that. And I'm going to automatically give you this to protect you from harm in the future. Now, why is the reactive mind doing this? Look, it could be a very, very simple thing. What the reactive mind is doing is if there's enough similarity in present time to what happened in the past, the reactive mind is going to start triggering off. So let's say Tom, this guy Tom, right? He's got one of these moustaches that goes like that, and I don't know. Okay, he wears a long coat. Okay, let's say Tom has a big moustache. Looks a bit like anyway, somebody lethal. He has a big moustache and he wears a long coat. All right, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with a long moustache and a big coat. However, the problem is that back here, good old Bill back here used to have, it looks like a cape, but anyway, it's a coat. He used to have a moustache and a long coat. So the reactive mind, without Joe even realizing it, is now going to tell Joe, look, I'm telling you now, get away from this situation. There's something going wrong here and so forth. And you know what? If you don't do what I'm telling you to get away from this situation. The reactive mind is kind of trying to automatically protect you from what it thinks is a dangerous situation again. So it's trying to tell you, get away. If you don't get away, what's going to happen, it's going to send up a little bit more of the messages, and you are going to start experiencing a change in your mood. In other words, the more that's going on in the present that's similar to what happened in the past, it just brings back the stress from the past. And a person who was happy, he's now arguing with Josie. He doesn't know why. And Josie is like, Joe, what's wrong with you? Why are you arguing so much? I don't know. I'm just stressed out. It's the weather. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. He says, it's the weather. I'm working too hard. You know? I never got any time to myself. But that's not the reason. The reason is there's something back here that is nice and buried, which is affecting the way Joe is feeling. And this is the reactive mind in operation. In other words, something in the present time triggering off something in the past, affecting Joe without his realization. Okay? So, Joe starts to get stressed out, and then he starts thinking. What does he start thinking? What does he start thinking about this situation here? He starts thinking, quite irrationally, Tom and Josie are in love. Okay? So he starts to get these weird thoughts about Josie and Tom that are not actually true. Why? Because the reactive mind is telling him it's the exact same situation again, and it's going to start taking control of his emotions and his reactions. So when you're losing your temper, when you're getting stressed out for no reason, when you're getting worried and you're like, okay, why am I worrying so much? Why do I get so anxious and so forth? The first place to have a look at is the reactive mind. Your own reactive mind. It isn't you. It's the storage. Okay? It's the storage of stuff that's nice and buried that needs to be sorted out. A similar thing could apply, let's say, with a physical injury. Let's say you were in a car crash and you ended up in hospital for a week, maybe 20 years ago, and you've forgotten about it. And now you move into a new neighbourhood, and in this new neighbourhood, you're living beside a hospital. Now, what that can do is it can trigger off the past stuff without you even realising it, and then you start to feel sleepy and you get headaches for no reason at all and you don't know what's going on. So, to summarise this, the reactive mind is a part of your mind that you're not in control of. It's a storage of the painful things that happened to you in your past, and it triggers off without your consent. That's the biggest problem. Look, I know that sounds maybe a bit too simple or whatever, but it is the basic problem. If you can't clear up that, you could be in lockdown for 2 months and it will have some effect on you in lockdown, but it would have much less of an effect on you because the stress isn't getting triggered and so forth. Okay, now, so here's the result of this, right? Let me just draw one last diagram for you here. Here's the result. The result is this. There's you, and you're feeling great. Oh, I'm having a great day today. Wonderful. And what's happening is your reactive mind is still sitting there. It's not gone. It's just sitting there, but it's not affecting you today, maybe. Okay? You go out, something reminds you of something, and the reactive mind starts kicking in and affecting you without your permission. And all that happened is something triggered off to something that was similar in the past. So a person changes mood, gets stuck in anxiety or stress or worry or temper or fear or apathy or anger or frustration, these things. This is the biggest reason why these things happen. Now, what do you do about it? Well, look, most people, what they do is they go to the gym, which is fine because you're actually getting yourself physically healthy as well, right? The problem is that it doesn't really address this. People do positive thinking, which is fine as well. The only trouble is maintaining it, okay? You could decide, you know what, the best thing for me to do is to move out of the environment. I'm going to leave my relationship, I'm going to leave my family, I'm going to leave the country, and that's all right, and there can be some temporary help with that. The problem with that is that this reactive mind follows you no matter where you go, so if there's something similar that happens in your new environment, the stuff is just going to keep coming back again. A little bit like that film. I saw a film at the weekend called The Grudge. It's like a horror movie. It's like it follows you around the place. Okay? So if you want to change environment, move to a different house, yeah, these things can definitely help, but unless you handle the source of it, it's going to kick in. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'm going to show you now, Kat, exactly how do we clear that, and Adrian's asking the same questions. And Val, okay. Okay. Brother's wife died of cancer. Okay, that's a big loss. Thank you very much for that, Walter. Okay, so now, look, we all have solutions to improve our negative emotions, going out for a jog and all this, and these are fine. But if you can really get to the root and clear up this reactive mind, your life generally will become a lot easier to handle, and you'll be able to maintain yourself naturally, not just pretendedly, up at that high level, which is where you naturally are, by the way. If you've got kids, look at kids, they're generally running around the place, they're interested in life, they're happy. That's where you should be. With all the experience you have, you should be able to maintain your enthusiasm for life. Okay, so now, I'm going to show you a little bit about, and I know what time is it now? It's almost 9 o'clock. I'm going to keep this summary short, right? But this is it. How do you handle this? Well, in Dianetics, which is what the book I showed you at the beginning, we do a thing called auditing. Okay? And the word auditing means to listen and to guide. Auditing is done with two people. You've got a person here called an auditor. Auditor means somebody who listens and who guides. He's not somebody who tells you what to think or gives you life advice or tells you, does a bit of, you should do this, you should do that. He just listens and guides. The person who is receiving the help, and this is all explained in the book, by the way, is called a pre-clear. Okay, why is it called a pre? Pre means before. Clear is basically a situation where you have cleared the baggage. Okay? And what the auditor is doing for the person in a session, in a Dianetic session, he's helping the person to find these painful things that have happened in the past and basically get rid of the pain from those incidents. Get rid of the pain, because what's held here is there's stuck pain. There is stuck emotional pain on both a physical level and an emotional level. And the auditor is helping the pre-clear to try and release that. The pre-clear is wide awake, and he has a natural ability to return to things in the past. There is an end result. Dianetics is not something that you do forever. It's not a way of life. It's not something that you have to tick off your box every day. No, you do it until the pain is cleared up, and you will feel back, much better, back to yourself again. That's the whole idea of it. Will you have negative things that have happened to you in the future? Of course, we all have negative things that happen, that can happen in the future, but your ability to handle that is much, much more. So, how do you clear up the negative emotions? Look, you can do the usual things that people do and are beneficial. Eating healthy, having a good rest, going for a jog, going to the gym, meeting friends. These are all great. If you want permanent, if you want to handle the situation permanently and get to the real root of it, you really have to handle this reactive mind, because this is the reason why you're reacting in the first place. Now, look, I know I've covered this very, very quickly, and I know I can't summarize it all in 1 minute, but that's the basic idea. Now, I was going to ask you for one practical exercise, because I had one more left for you, and that was, what was it? An example of a time that you reacted. If you want to do that, you can pop it into the chat. It's getting a bit late now, but if you want to think of an example of a time when you reacted and you did or you said something that you felt, oh no, I shouldn't have done that, because that's an example of the reactive mind, you can pop it into the chat. That will be great. Anyway, there's your solution on what needs to be done. Okay, now, so I've kind of summarized the solution in a minute. It's very difficult to kind of tell you all about it in the space of 60 seconds, because I don't want to keep you here all night. So here's what I recommend that you do. So if you're interested in clearing up, and by the way, we're coming to the end now, so I'm just kind of coming to my closing moments here. If you're interested in learning how to clear this up, how to deal with it, and so forth, what I would recommend, in fact, I recommend this for everybody. On the 5th of February, we're launching a 4-part online course, which is basically 4 Fridays, and it will be on a rotation basis. And we're going to be going over all the basics that I went over tonight. There's going to be 4 chunks. Everything that I've gone over tonight, we're going to be covering that and breaking it down into simple basics on this 4-part online course. And we're going to break down the basic ingredients. We're going to go into those elements that I showed you a bit more, how they affect you, and what you can do about it. Okay? It's going to be very, very interesting, and the idea is to help you to get on top of this thing called the reactive mind, which is basically ruining your ability to be in control of your emotions. Now, as part of the registration for those 4-part online course, this book is included in the registration free, and we'll be going to be sending that to you free of charge. So if you do sign up for the 4-part online webinar that I'm going to be delivering, and it's going to be delivered on a Friday night for a 4 series, you sign up for it. The link is going to be put on there. Oh, there it is already. The book is going to be sent to you free of charge, and it's a wonderful book. It's got everything in it. All right, and the link is there, and it'll be there after the webinar finishes, and you can check it out yourself if you're interested. Now, if for any reason you've any more questions, okay, or you've got a personal situation that you'd like to go over with somebody first, or you'd like to basically talk about this with somebody, then what you should do is send a message to Sylvia. Sylvia is our host on the Zoom meeting, and also if you're on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, you can just send a message into us through the chat there. Sylvia is on there, so you can send her a personal message and just give her a time and a day that you'd like her to call you, and she can just give you a quick call and go over it with you, and maybe you can work out a plan on how you're going to start improving this thing. Okay, but definitely the 4-part webinar is going to, the 4-part online course is going to be very valuable for you, and it will teach you a lot more about what's going on here. Okay, folks, so I want to end off now. I went a little bit late, so thank you very much for waiting. I want to say I hope this has been of benefit to you. I know it probably wasn't all the tips that you get in order to go out there and stay positive, but I really wanted to just show you the core of it, what's causing the problem in the first place. Because unless you deal with the source of any problem, the problem persists. So I hope this has been of benefit to you. Again, the idea is to clear up the reactive mind. That is the main source of negative emotions. So thank you all very much for coming. For everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, thank you for your time and your attention tonight and for listening to me. I really and genuinely appreciate you being here. For everybody on Zoom, thank you so much for all your examples that you sent in. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for listening. And thank you for your patience on the technical glitch. And it was great to have you there. So thanks everybody. Levente, Kat, Simon, Caroline, Rhinus, Jessica, Adrian, Deirdre, Sarmita, Abdullah, Megija, Isabella, Wihan, Wins, Julia, Anna, and Norris. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you a beautiful evening. The webinar is going to stay open, so you can have a look at the link. And so thank you again, and have a beautiful evening, everybody. Okay, bye for now.